At the end of today's show, you're going to see a picture of my cat, Alex, who was a dead cat 5 years ago and was miraculously restored to great health. We'll tell you about that. Dr. Lee Cowden, one of my favorite guests, cardiologist Lee Cowden, and Dr. Glenn King are going to be here today talking about a different approach to having heart attack. Okay, this is fascinating. I asked them to come on and teach us this. We're going to open today with something called the auto-brewery syndrome. Can you have all the symptoms and signs and manifestations of being inebriated and not be? Yep, yeast does that. We're going to talk about that. And then Erin Porter, second edition of Eat, Pray, and Get Well, her book. It's magnificent. Watch.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
I received a call from a friend of mine, a 45-year friend. He's a physician in the Houston area who had been asked to be a professional witness, go to court, and stand up for a man who police pulled over, and he was staggering and he couldn't talk and he smelled like alcohol, and he took a breathalyzer, and sure enough, he was 3 times over the level. Yet this man and his wife say he has never had a drink, or he hasn't in many years. So this wasn't an alcohol problem. Boy, I don't know if I'd believe that if I was a policeman or if I was a judge and jury. Okay, so let's walk down this road. Have you ever experienced a staggering gait, slurred speech, GI distress, and a state of total confusion, but knew that you were 100% sober? In some people, this is a regular problem called, and by the way, it's called ABS. So when my friend John called me, the doctor, a couple of years ago, hey Doug, do you know what ABS is? Yeah, it's automatic braking system. No, not on cars, in medicine. No, what is it? Here it is. It's called auto-brewery syndrome. People afflicted with ABS appear drunk, but they're not. It's a rare condition in which common intestinal stomach yeast, such as Candida species, right? There's Crusade, Parapsilosis, and Saccharomyces, or bread yeast, can produce significant amounts of alcohol by fermenting seemingly good foods in the intestine. And folks, I got to tell you, I really believe a precursor to developing this auto-brewery syndrome is lots of antibiotics. Antibiotics are indiscriminate bacteria killers. They don't care if it's good bacteria that God put in our intestine or bad bacteria that's causing us a fever and an earache and a sore throat. Antibiotics kill it, wipe it out. In the absence of that good bacteria, which competes for a food supply in our intestine, yeast can grow hyphae, tails, and begin poking holes through the lining of the intestine and so forth. Not with a round of antibiotics, but some people are on antibiotics for a long, long time. And at that point, dysbiosis, tummy problems, and certainly fermenting pasta, bread, sugar in your intestine with those yeast. Fermentation requires yeast and sugar, carbohydrates in our diet. This could be real. ABS is a treatable condition. I want to give you 3 for examples here. These all come out of good journals. A 25-year-old Texas man experienced blood alcohol levels 0.04 to 0.3 grams per deciliter, which is 3 times higher than they should be, after a heavy growth of Candida albicans and Candida crusei. He recovered completely following 3 weeks of treatment with 100 milligram of diflucan or fluconazole and a sugar-free diet. There's a treatment for this. Number one, I first learned of this maybe 30, 40 years ago when I heard of a case. I've studied yeast forever. I heard of a case of a man in Japan, a young man in his 30s, who couldn't maintain a job because he kept getting accused of being an alcoholic. Every job he'd go to, the employees smelled alcohol on his breath. He was a teetotaler. He didn't drink alcohol, but they found high levels of alcohol in his bloodstream, right? He was making alcohol. He's a brewery in his intestine. I don't think this is rare. I really don't. I think this is fairly common. Okay, here's another one. A 30-year-old Chinese man developed blood alcohol levels as high as 3 times normal following heavy gut growth of Candida parapsilosis. 3 weeks of treatment with 150 milligrams of diflucan or fluconazole and 400 milligrams of voriconazole. Plus, that says 200 million units a day. That wouldn't be correct. Actually, 2 million units a day, nystatin, in addition to a sugar-free diet, resolved his symptoms in 3 months. By the way, I just copied per this journal, which is International Journal of Clinical Experimental Medicine. 200 million units a day, you wouldn't want to do that much. Always talk with your doctor. He or she will know how to prescribe this. Finally, this. A 13-year-old Oklahoma girl experienced severe intoxication with blood alcohol levels as high as you've seen. Heavy growth of Candida glabrata and Saccharomyces cerevisiae were found in her intestines, in her gut. The girl responded well to antifungal treatment. A 13-year-old girl. Imagine being the parent. Imagine being the parent of an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old. When they come home smelling like, you've been drinking, tell me the truth. Sometimes, folks, I know it's rare, but sometimes they haven't. Fungi can cause the strangest symptoms and most mysterious illness known to man. I say it's fungus until proven otherwise, what we call FUPO. I hope that helps you. Okay, this show is done for the sole purpose of helping you folks. It's free. It's information you can really use. Joining me right now are two heart specialists, one cardiologist, one a PhD. Both doctors, Dr. King, Dr. Cowden, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Great to be on. Thank you for having us.
You guys know this. In the past 20, 25 years, cancer edges above, then heart disease edges above, then cancer. And currently, heart disease is really the #1 killer of we Americans. Nobody knows this better than you, Dr. Cowden. Yeah. What Dr. King brings to this equation is this incredible ability to sometimes arrest a heart attack from occurring. As a lay person, I would kind of question all this if you weren't one of my closest friends for the past 30 years, because you have reported to me with calls at home, Doug, you're not going to believe this. I couldn't believe it either. No. We're talking about something called TKM, okay, the King method. When did you first become acquainted with Dr. King?
1987.
87.
Just a few years back.
And what was it that you thought, as a cardiologist, I mean, you've been in emergency rooms, what is it you thought, okay, there's something to the King method?
Well, Glenn seemed to me to be a very honest person when I met him initially. And he said, what's your specialty? I said, cardiology. He said, oh, that's great. I've been wanting to teach a cardiologist this technique. I said, okay.
You know I've been through medical training, right?
That's right. So he said, next time somebody has a severe anginal episode or that looks like they're heading toward a heart attack, I want you to try this. He said, grab their left pinky finger with your left hand,
okay, and
put your right hand, these fingers, on the center of their back between their shoulder blades. Okay, that's the T5 vertebra. Okay, so I'll demonstrate on Glenn. He said, do this and this. And I said, that's it? He said, yep, that's it. I said, okay, that's interesting. So about 2 weeks later, the emergency room called and said, we have one of your patients here and she's having a heart attack and you need to get over here because we have a lot of other patients that I need to get on to take care of them, so you need to come take care of her. I said, okay. So I went over to see what was going on, and they had an electrocardiogram. It showed the typical signs of a heart attack in progress. And they had already given her morphine and nitroglycerin and oxygen and IV stuff. And she still had severe chest pain and sweating and nausea and all the typical symptoms of a heart attack. And the monitor beside her bed showed ST segment elevation, which is a sign of heart attack. So I said, oh, okay, maybe this is a time to try Glenn's technique that he showed me. So while I was talking to her to get some more history, I did that. Okay, and in about 4 minutes, the chest pain went away, the sweating stopped, the nausea stopped, the shortness of breath stopped, and I thought, The morphine and the nitroglycerin finally caught up.
No, I mean, thank God you tried this. I mean, how many cardiologists have you talked to, Dr. King, who said, okay, great, I'll try it, and you never hear back from them?
Realistically, most will not. They'll think
Yeah.
the first thoughts that he probably thought.
Right. If you can abort a very serious condition like a heart attack from ever occurring, teach us. What else? You're talking about I remember in high school, if I was taking a test and the class was quiet and I had to sneeze, if you push right here really hard, your sneeze goes away. Where did you learn this? What do you know I want inside your head?
I actually, interesting enough, my first exposure was a nurse talking to me about it. And I was studying acupuncture at the time. And I thought, are you kidding? So I had an incident at work with my health with grand mal seizures. And the end of this story was this method is what turned it around when nothing else would. So I got into very, very serious long-term study to find out what is this? What is it about? Why did it make that great a difference? And in that continued process, I learned many, many other things, and this is just one of them.
If someone is having an asthma attack, can your method, it's called TKM app, there's now an app that you can get for this, and I'll teach you all about that before we go away. My child is having an asthma attack, what can I do? Obviously, get him to a doctor, but on the way to the doctor, that's a long drive. What might help?
Actually, if you'll just hold, again, next to the T5, if you hold T3, the third thoracic vertebra, and the middle finger.
About that far
Do
above.
it on lead. Let's see what, okay?
You're holding, which the hand is important.
Yeah.
So the right hand would go to T3.
Okay.
And I know everybody doesn't know about the spine, but we can study that later. And then you hold middle finger. Now, this is different. The heart attack, you have to hold left little finger. This you can hold left or right middle finger. It'll work. If you want, you can hold both of them. For example, if I still have my hand there, and I'm holding both middle fingers.
Folks, in the interest of time, we've got to go now. I wish I could continue on. As a matter of fact, I will continue on for all of us. Go to the World Wide Web and go to tkmapp.com to learn more. I'll interview them and put this on on my website so you can learn more. 6 minutes is not enough time. Thank you, guys. Good to see you.
Great to see
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now this is a book called Eat, Pray, and Get Well. Boy, does that sum it up. Erin Porter is the author of this book. We have been blessed to have her on this show several times. She is now in studio with us. Thank you for getting on an airplane and traveling from Florida here to Texas and sitting down and talking with us about this book. Such common sense, but it took a chronic illness and an awakening to get you to wellness, and that's why you wrote the book. Teach us.
Right.
Tell us about it.
Well, I wrote that book because I had been through the ringer, emotionally, physically. I got sick at an early age, could not find my cause for a couple of decades, and I don't think God, He uses everything you go through. Nothing goes to waste. So everything that I went through went into this book, and with the hopes of helping some people, maybe they don't have to go through what I went through. You know, we have the internet today, it makes it a lot easier.
Sure.
But when I got sick, I didn't have any of that, so I was kind of at the mercy of doctors, and it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of misdiagnoses and surgeries I probably didn't need, many surgeries I probably never needed, until I actually saw your show probably about 15 years ago. And it was just a rude awakening. And then finally, I had, I think I told you, 25 years of a sinus infection on top of a lot of other problems. And I went to the ENT, please culture me for fungus. Nobody had ever done that before.
I mean, you had to ask.
It came back positive, and I said, okay, I'm onto something here. I'm gonna keep watching Doug's show. And that's pretty much how it unfolded. And I started thinking, my heart arrhythmias, that's not separate from everything that's going on. The fibromyalgia, the Epstein-Barr. And so the puzzle, the pieces of the puzzle started coming together. And I found out what tests I should be taking, you know, and I put everything in there in the hopes that it's just going to help people that had the same symptoms, and it seems very cookie cutter. A lot of people who are affected by mold have a lot of the same symptoms that I did. Sinus infections, asthma, Epstein-Barr. You're more prone to viruses and parasites.
You know what blows me away every time I interview you, and I love this, I love when you're in town, is what you just said. I had to go to the doctor and pay hundreds of dollars and tell them what I wanted done. Folks, we really think our doctors understand mold. God bless them. Wonderful people with twice my IQ. They didn't learn about mold, although antibiotics are mold that they hand out freely. You know, in 1999, you remember the Mayo Clinic? Tell the folks what the Mayo Clinic said.
Well, they came out and said about 96% of sinus infections are fungal in nature.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is I got my diagnosis, I believe, in 2004, and I flew up to see one of the doctors from the Mayo Clinic. And I was just surprised to hear, here's an antibiotic. There was no antifungal. Stay on it indefinitely. So I don't know if that 1999 bombshell really helped. I think there's fantastic ear, nose, and throats, and I know a couple that's the first thing they're going to look for, and they are going to give you an antifungal.
Don Dennis.
Oh, he's one of them.
In Georgia, Dr. Don Dennis is amazing. The first thing he thinks is ethmoid sphenoid sinusitis is fungus. Now, the book is selling well. Congratulations on that. Give us a little insight into the book, because you talk about physical and spiritual healing.
Yes, it's in 3 parts. So the first part is emotional, because I had a difficult childhood. A lot of people would say abusive, not difficult. So I had to heal in that area. And then I have physical, because I started getting sick at 6 when we moved into a home that was moldy. And then I got hit really hard at 18. I got my first job in Manhattan, moved into the only apartment I can afford, so you can imagine what that looked like. And you could see mold. You could see mold on the walls. And in 9 months, the 9 months I was in that apartment, it just took my health down. Didn't know it was the mold, of course. So I take you through my journey of illness and how it started. It started as a simple sinus infection that wouldn't go away. And then every month I was able to add another illness. I was just going down. Yep. And then the third part is my relationship with Jesus along the way. Begging Jesus, please help me. I'm 18 years old and I'm running from doctor to doctor. I feel like I'm dying. And God doesn't always work as fast as we would like, but I look at it like he had a bigger plan. Maybe the plan was to go through all this to help people, just like you did. You came back from Vietnam, you were young, you were 21, not much older than I was, and you had to figure out what was wrong with you. But I think God was with you along the way, and he steers your path, and this is what...
I disagree, I don't think.
Right.
I mean, in our case, right, we're here. This book is so amazing, folks, and it's got my diet in it, the Kaufman 1, Kaufman 2 diet. It's Eat, Pray, Get Well. How can they get it? Go to your website, eatpraygetwell.com.
Eatpraygetwell.com or Amazon.
Or Amazon. Thank you for being with us today. Just epic. Great work, and I'm so glad you're healthy today.
Thanks.
Thanks. Friends, I want to tell you a story about Alex, and I'll show you a picture of Alex. This is our beloved cat that was to be used in animal experiments, 12, 13 years ago. But my son saved it, put this little kitty in his pocket. It was a cold night in Dallas, and saved it. Well, this is our grand cat, because our son got married and moved to California, and the cats couldn't go with him. This cat, when she turned, 6 or 7 years old, got very, very sick. I want to walk you down through this. Alex, the 70 or 75-year-old cat, she failed to thrive. She lost a large amount of weight. She was always sick. She always had diarrhea and intermittent constipation. She began vomiting. She became so listless you could pick her up in one hand and she'd just fall like a towel, and appeared to be dying about 4 years ago. She was diagnosed with thyroiditis by an emergency room veterinarian, a feline veterinarian, and a holistic veterinarian. All were asked if her expensive organic canned food could be causing her condition. All said no. All offered a prognosis of 6 to 9 months remaining life. My wife was heartbroken. I'm more of a dog person, but it's our cat, it's our son's cat, makes it my grand cat. And I'm a guy who liberates bees from inside a house. I can't kill anything. And this cat's very near and dear to us. So one night when it was iced outside, Ruth woke me up at 2 in the morning and said, she's dying, laying in her own vomit. So we took her to a 24-hour veterinarian out here about 20 miles from our house, sliding along in the car on the ice. A very nice woman. She drew some blood and she said, listen, this is very common in cats. She has a thyroid condition. She's going to die. Maybe 6 months to live. We said, okay, we need a second opinion. We took her to our own veterinarian who was on vacation, but our own cat veterinarian. A day or two later, the veterinarian's right, she's gonna die. Alex is gonna die. She's got 6, 9 months to live. Then we took her to a holistic veterinarian thinking, well, this person would know. And same thing he said. Every one of these people, we said, we're spending a huge amount of money on little individual canned, organic, natural, I don't like that word because it's abused, natural cat food. Could this cat food have fungal mycotoxins in it? You're speaking to a veterinarian who really doesn't know about fungus. And so they all said no. So we decided if this were one of the doctor's patients, thousands of whom I've worked with, what would we do? Suspecting that her food was the problem, let me go on. We took matters into our own hands. These symptoms began after purchasing very expensive canned natural cat food. If this was a client of mine, I would immediately suspect her diet and change it immediately. Alex began eating cooked range-fed turkey and some steamed veggies that we pureed and stirred into the turkey meat. Cats can't swallow any supplement. So we used liquid chlorophyll in her water. And when she drank water, she drank liquid chlorophyll because it has known antifungal properties. That's all we did. Day after day, we saw the most miraculous turnaround. I've done this with humans for 40 years, so this didn't shock me. Improvement noticed. Her symptoms left almost immediately. Within a few weeks, Alex became a playful cat, once again running around the house like a kitten. She gained all of her weight back within 60 days, which was 3 or 4 pounds. It was a lot of weight. Today, 4 years later, at age 70, 75, she appears to be a kitten. What else can I tell you? Her whole world changed when we took her off of processed cat food. I'm suspecting processed dog food has some of the same problems. Not condemning any industry. I'm telling you, if your cat or dog has health problems, change their diet and think about liquid chlorophyll drops in their water. Give it a week and see. Here's what we learned, and my take-home message to all of you. Trust, but verify. No matter what a veterinarian or a doctor says, trust them, but verify the information they're giving you. Here's right out of medical mycology 3 years ago. Fungi can cause disease in humans, can also cause serious infections in different animal species associated with a significant illness and death, mortality. But Doug Kaufman says when symptoms abound, change their diet around. I hope that helps. Folks, this show is all about self-help, all about learning. We need doctors. Some of us need medicines. But today we had a couple of doctors talking about self-help when illness occurs or an emergency occurs, okay? tkmapp.com is where you want to go. Thank you for joining us, and God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.